We're going to be looking into the COVID inquiry, guys. Number 10 was in complete chaos as COVID hit and vulnerable, appallingly neglected, according to Dominic Cummings. I'm going to read this from Sky News' point of view, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from Sky News with the headline with regard to the COVID inquiry as number 10 was in complete chaos as COVID hit and vulnerable, appallingly neglected, according to Dominic Cummings. Boris Johnson's former chief aide was giving evidence to the official COVID inquiry following his ex-colleague Lee Kane. Now, I spent pretty much watching the COVID inquiry from both Lee Kane and from Dominic Cummings, and while I've covered some snippets of the inquiry, today was the first time I really got to dive my head into it, and I have to say that I feel angry, I feel ashamed, I feel sad, I feel in quite a wave of emotions, because it's been a good couple of hours now at the time of recording since I've watched it, and I just think to myself, how poor of a cabinet, of a government, do you have to be when the country is in crisis, a virus is spreading, and nobody is taking ownership, responsibility, or taking the leadership. And the person who should be doing that is Boris Johnson. Really should be. And it infuriates me that we had such a terrible leader. We really did. We had a leader who is just a known liar, who did not care about us. And he literally said, and I said it on the live stream on Monday, it didn't matter that, allegedly he stated that, we think that he said that basically let the vulnerable die, basically. There was an article from a newspaper where he once quoted as saying, let the bodies pile high. This man partied while people died. Don't forget, we never forget Partygate. And when I was listening to this vile man, this person here, makes me a bit sick to my stomach, to be fair. Because this guy was trying to pull a lot of strings and take control of everything. And it's just, I just feel the worst part about all this, guys. And this is the most infuriating part. There's not going to be any justice. That's the worst part. No matter how much we want something done about this, we want some kind of justice, retribution. People who couldn't say goodbye to their loved ones. People who lost loved ones because they were told to stay at home. Or people who went to places knowing that it would be alright, going back out on the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. And then, unfortunately, catching COVID and passing it on to someone they love who wouldn't survive if they caught it. There are many stories out there of people's lives who have suffered because of the incompetence of this pathetic excuse of what we call a government at that time. Like, even the likes of Theresa May or Jeremy Corbyn, even they would have had a swivel head in this situation. I don't know about Liz Truss. I would not trust Liz Truss in this situation. But those two, even Sunak, I think maybe to some extent maybe would have handled things better, because he's not come across as a Looney Tune. I mean, he is a bit of a dummy now when you see him now, but I just think we had the worst possible Prime Minister in the worst possible time for the United Kingdom. They partied while we died, and they ran around like headless chickens, not knowing what to do. And my God, did the civil service people in the civil service, they must have been absolutely tearing their goddamn hairs out, thinking, what on earth is this government doing? Like, the country is in goddamn crisis here, and they can't make decisions. This is a video from Sky News, from a clip from it. We're going to listen to it together.
Talking about the structure concerned with the response to the coronavirus pandemic.
So I would say overall, widespread failure, but pockets of excellent people and pockets of excellent teams doing excellent work within an overall dysfunctional system.
Widespread failure. Now, he tries to point out that there were some good people. Now, I'm going to go on the assumption that the people that he point out did excellent are those who were in Dominic Cummings' circle. I'm just going to spitball that, because if it was such a failure, how can anyone be told they were given excellent service when the amount of damage that was caused?
In your statement, you describe how, following this email, the Prime Minister, whilst initially agreeing with the sentiment of your trenchant views on aspects of the government machine, listened to use your word, pop-ins, and then got cold feet. What are pop-ins?
Pop-ins are what people in private office referred to when the Prime Minister would make a decision about something. Some element of the system, often in the Cabinet Office, would not like what had been agreed. And in the best Sir Humphrey Westminster style, they would wait for me and other people to not be around the Prime Minister, and they would pop in to see the Prime Minister and say, "Dear Prime Minister, I think that this decision really wasn't the best idea. Very brave Prime Minister. Perhaps you should trolley on it." And
so essentially what he's basically is that because he was Boris Johnson's advisor, or the man pulling the strings, what he's basically saying is that people who didn't like the decisions made by him, or what the Prime Minister's decision was, basically waiting for him to get out of the way and then get into the Prime Minister's ears. Like, this is just pathetic on so many levels. How pathetic do you really have to be?
this was a general problem.
You should trolley on it. Meaning?
Well, I'm just using the sort of generic term that we often used about the PM.
The term you used, and his Cabinet Secretary used, and his Director of Communications used, and other officials, no doubt, about his propensity to...
Pretty much everyone called him the trolley, yeah.
And he did it with a smile on his face, look.
change direction.
It's pathetic. It's just pathetic. There was no shielding plan early in the pandemic, and vulnerable groups were appallingly neglected as a fatalistic approach took hold in Downing Street, Dominic Cummings has claimed. The former chief aide to Boris Johnson, who described Downing Street being in complete chaos, was asked to what degree decision makers considered ethnic minority groups, domestic abuse victims and others in the run-up to the imposing national lockdown. Mr Cummings told the COVID inquiry, "I would say that the entire question was almost entirely appallingly neglected by the entire planning system." He said one of the most appalling things was the lack of shielding plan in March 2020, and that the Cabinet Office was trying to block us from creating a shield plan. Mr Cummings, who was one of the most senior advisors in government during the first wave of the pandemic, also told the inquiry that strict border controls and the rapid expansion of testing could have been much better outcome for saving lives and the economy than lockdown. Is that what the scientists are saying? He told the inquiry that strict border controls and a rapid expansion of testing could have had much better outcomes. Should this man have been anywhere near government, guys? Let me know in the comment section down below what you honestly think, because I don't think he should have been anywhere near. he did say fatalistically approach had gripped the government, which did not envision attempting to create new systems to control the spread of coronavirus. Not one thought was really practical to build our way out of the problem, he said. The fundamental U-turn that we shifted to was trying to build our way out of it instead of fatalistically accepting it. Mr. Cummings also described how attitudes around whether to change to a lockdown strategy in March was not suddenly changed. He said this was all complete chaos. When asked about when various aspects of government decided a lockdown was necessary rather than managing the COVID in the community, such indecisive action, they were so out of control. How much incompetence was there? It's just, I'm going round in circles. I know I'm saying it again and again and again, but it's just, how could they be so careless with people's lives is the point that I make. It's so careless. So careless. That's what infuriates me. They were so careless with this. Like something as serious as this, and this is the way they handled it. It was just... The inquiry also heard that there were conversations in early March 2020, weeks before the national lockdown, about whether local authorities could book out ice rinks and hire trucks to carry and store massive numbers of bodies. Matt Hancock sowed chaos by continuing to insist in March 2020 that people without symptoms of dry coughs and a temperature were unlikely to be suffering from coronavirus. This guy is, out of all the people, this is the one person that needs to be thrown behind bars. Not Boris Johnson, this man. This man did not give a shed of care about people. And he still doesn't to this day. He's never apologised for his failings as a health secretary. We know what Boris Johnson's like, but this guy, it makes me sick that this guy won't even come to the inquiry because he wants all immunity from the inquiry, which is outrageous request. Everyone in Downing Street called Mr. Johnson an indecisive trolley. Mr. Cummings warned Mr. Johnson of the NHS imploding like a zombie apocalypse on the 12th of March, 12 days before the lockdown was implemented. Mr. Cummings was called to give evidence to the former Communications Director Lee Kane. Mr. Kane said the former Prime Minister was indecisive over lockdown because of the rump of the Tory party did not like the strict measures. Notes from the former scientific advisor Sir Patrick Vallance were read out in what was said that Mr. Johnson agreed that his MPs that COVID was the nature's way of dealing with old people. We looked like a joke. Key WhatsApp from the inquiry. The two hearings laid bare the chaos and dysfunction in government as coronavirus presented the biggest crisis that the UK has seen since 1945. Mr. Cummings took aim at much of the government during the nightmare of the pandemic, saying in a text he called the minister useless effing pigs, morons. You can figure out what that word is. Actually understated the position his events showed in 2020. He also claimed that everyone in Downing Street called Mr. Johnson a trolley because of his indecision. Well, his indecision, he's just as inaction man as our current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Mr. Cummings was Mr. Johnson's top political aide in Downing Street from 2019, having masterminded the Vote Leave Brexit campaign and helped usher in the former Prime Minister into office. He has since left his role in November 2020 amid a power struggle behind the scenes and has since become a fierce critic of his old boss. He was embroiled of a scandal at the outset of the pandemic when it emerged he had taken a lockdown-breaking trip to County Durham with his family. Bereaved families were stationed outside the inquiry on Tuesday. It comes a day after Martin Reynolds, the civil servant who was dubbed Party Marty due to his role in the Partygate scandal, gave evidence yesterday in which he admitted setting WhatsApp messages set to disappear as he called for the COVID inquiry grew. This is obviously not over. There is still more to come. But this from Cummings is pretty damning, shall we say, to the Prime Minister. But make no mistake about this, guys. This does not advocate anyway the damage that man caused in there as well. This was a bunch of clowns trying to run a circus, because clowns are supposed to be part of a circus. Trying to run something that's very important. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something like I don't know, like a military base or something. Imagine a bunch of clowns trying to run a military base, and one of them accidentally fired a gun, and God forbid someone died. It's just something. It just could not be more insane. And like I said at the start, guys, with my first thoughts, my heart goes out to the civil servants, because my God, were they tearing their hair out on all of this as well. Like, the back and forth, the indecisiveness of a prime minister, it's just absolutely crazy. And him sitting there telling us that we must stay at home, we must go into the lockdown. And even then, they still could not be making the correct decisions. Just listening to it, guys, was just infuriating. It was so hard. And of course, I will probably, if we have a Snowflake show, we'll probably talk about it, and there'll be lots more as to come from it, guys. But it's damning, to say the least, guys. Absolutely damning. They partied while we died. But what do you guys think of this all? What do you think of this kamikaze, debacle, despicable government that has failed in its duties for us, the British people, or specifically the English people? Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys make of all this mess. Do you think they all should be charged and face criminal action for their remarks, for their actions? Let me know down in the comment section what you guys honestly think. Like, share and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching if you have, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.